Hi, everyone. I am Jason Morgan, editor of Fleet Equipment, and welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted, the video interview series that connects you with the top minds in the industry. Today, I'm talking with Donald Chilton, Director of Product Management at Mann+Hummel. Donald, how are you doing? How's it going working from home, and how are you supporting your customers while you're staying productive there?
Jason, good. And yeah, I can't find my script either, so we'll have to totally do this unscripted. So all things are good. I appreciate it. You taking some time with us today. Yeah, it's obviously a different world we're living in at the moment. We're thankful for technology and the ability it gives for not only for you and I to talk, but for us to touch base with customers, to talk with our colleagues at work, our friends and family, and all those things. But yeah, we're doing good, all things considered. Obviously, the automotive industry and the aftermarket as a whole, heavy trucks and all those things are essential in our economy, and so there's still parts being manufactured, still parts going to the warehouse, and folks obviously changing filters out there. So yeah, we're thankful to be in the industry we're in for sure.
Right. No, very good. And as you point out, there is no plan. There is no plan for any of this. We have no idea what's going on. So that's why I wanted to get in touch with you, because today we're talking filtration, maintenance practices. Been hearing out there that although from early reports, the number of service instances that fleets are having has been within reasonable levels. Service is still being performed. But lots of unknowns out there. Trucks are running longer because of hours of service exemptions. Who knows what the future holds if life cycles will increase. So we want to make sure that the filtration systems are performing, and you're not going to put a truck out of service unplanned. So with that, let's just kick it off. Where in the filtration system or any of the filters will we see the impacts of overly clogged filters or unmaintained filters before it becomes an out of service event? Where are those filters that are really in danger when you see them?
Yeah, sure. Jason, I think the short answer to that question is probably the number one problem child would be the fuel filters. Obviously, maybe you think about a truck, maybe it's not getting run the way it normally would be, used. So you have, obviously, with diesel, there's all kinds of things that can happen with the fuel and gelling and all those kind of things. So the fuel filter is going to be the number one problem system, just because diesel likes to run. When it doesn't run, like most engines, it's especially finicky in the fuel system. Oil, I'm not too concerned about. A lot of times when you have moisture buildup in the pan, it's not the end of the world by any means, but it does obviously cause contamination. So that's probably number two. And air is pretty resilient. So if you're not using the air filters, it's not really a huge deal. But those are the two places I would start with if I was going to take a look at a maintenance practice, especially bringing something back into service.
Right. Are there any kind of telltale signs of a fuel filter problem? What would maybe the driver notice? What, if any, fault code kind of things would a fleet manager see, or fuel economy performance? What are the signs there?
Yeah. So that's obviously the first symptom is going to be it's hard to start, right? So you're starving the system for fuel. You're going to see obviously increased use of fuel. It's going to be water that gets into the fuel itself. So if you've got a drain system where you actually have a bowl, you can see a lot more moisture build up from not being used. And especially if you can see it, there's probably going to be some buildup of gel over the pleats and the media. So it's just going to look a little murky, and things just aren't going to look like normal, clear diesel fuel to a user. So there's some signs, and obviously some just from a running standpoint, it's going to be rough idles, all those kind of things that an experienced user and or maintenance guy is going to say, yeah, this is just not right.
Right. So clearly, those are things that the driver should talk about when the truck comes in, either if it's a PM, hopefully, and they can catch it there, right? Are those the things that the technician should be staying on top of every time they see a truck? How often is that filter getting changed, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they have a set maintenance schedule, I think, for most fleets that are out there on what they do, their performance as far as the filter change out on fuel, oil, or whatever the case may be. But especially like if you have a truck or a series of trucks that haven't been running in a normal maintenance schedule because they've been parked, it may be just a good idea just to go ahead and change some of those pre-filters or those secondary filters in the fuel system, just as a, a backup, if you will, because you don't want to have problems in a few hundred miles down the road or something, and then you have an unplanned maintenance event, right? So, it's a cheap insurance to go ahead and swap out those filters on the fuel system. So that's always the best practice.
Yeah, and a great point. I've had a couple of conversations where asset utilization and making sure you're getting the most out of your assets is playing a big role. Because as you mentioned, while some fleets, depending on their business, might be running more than usual, some might be running less, right? And I know that during another recession we experienced not so long ago, trucks sitting against the fence was an issue. So definitely, if you do have a truck sitting around, that is something you want to check. Does that apply to the oil side too, or are those filter a little more resistance in terms of getting those trucks back up and running when they've been sitting a while?
Yeah, oil's not as finicky as fuel for sure for when it's been sitting, but I guess the other side of that coin you just mentioned there, Jason, was, if it's been overly used, let's say, so that truck's been running more and more than normal, don't push it too far. Obviously there's oil practices that people follow in normal conditions, and then you've got obviously the oil analysis that kind of tells you what's going on with the oil and the engine. So yeah, if you're on the opposite side of it, and you're really just driving those trucks more and more than normal because of obviously all the things going on right now, and we all know that goods and services have to continue, and a lot of goods get to their place by truck. Take a look at that oil analysis and make sure that you're not going too far beyond what the recommendation is from the engine manufacturer, because obviously you don't want to have that problem with where you've blown an engine because you pushed it too far, or you didn't change the oil in time or something to that effect.
Right. No, for sure. And I know that even on your side with some of the oil sensing technology and other things that you've developed in the past, and a lot of the connected diagnostic engine stuff now, in addition to the oil analysis, lots of data around that, lots of visibility, and when you're pushing your trucks hard, right? It's kind of that balance between being conservative, maybe a little overly conservative on the maintenance side, to make sure you get the longevity out of your equipment, right?
Yeah, and I know all of us are a little frazzled and probably push beyond our limits to some extent, but if you're the maintenance guy, you can't just throw up your hands and say, oh, I'm not checking the oil today, or I'm not going to run that analysis or look at the data, because again, it's we all have too much on our plates sometimes, but that's one of those things you just have to find time for. It's just not. Yeah, we've got more data than we've ever had, but sometimes it's paralysis by analysis. So don't get in that situation, right?
For sure. And that's you kind of bring up something too, because I mean, look, we're in Q2 now, going into Q3 and 4 later this year. Truck life cycles, right? You might be expecting to get another shipment of trucks, or taking delivery of another order. Maybe you were planning later this year. Maybe you're looking into beginning of next year. Now those plans, they fluctuate. Trucks might be getting a little longer in the tooth going into that year 3, 4, 5 life cycle. You've mentioned a lot of preventive maintenance and maintenance bullet points to look at, but if you're going outside your life cycle comfort round, are there any other things that they should be looking for once you get in the year 4 and 5 of operating a truck? Does the nuance of the filtration change, or any tips there?
I would say, Jason, fuel's going to be pretty consistent. And like I said, when we're in uncommon times where you're pushing maybe your trucks a little harder, as far as the miles that they're going between oil changes, obviously, kind of like we just talked about, look at the data, look at the oil analysis, see what's going on, be smart about it. But I think the other thing, as you kind of mentioned, years 4 and 5 that we need to take into account is, we haven't really talked about air filters, but really at the end of the day, the most important filter for longevity in a system is the air filter. So you think about, obviously the fuel gets changed a lot, the oil gets changed a lot, but the air doesn't get changed as much because they're designed to go a long time and be able to hold a lot of contamination. But at the same time, if they get neglected or they don't get changed in a proper format, what happens is you have the opportunity to start introducing a lot of wear particles into the engine, which rapidly deteriorate the rings and the system in general. And you think about the cylinders, and what goes on there as you introduce those wear particles. So that, if you think about years 4 and 5, if you didn't do that maintenance in 1, 2, 3 the way that you should have, you will rapidly see a deterioration. It doesn't matter how often you change the oil or how often you change the fuel filters, because if you've neglected the air filter the way you should not have, you're going to see just a massive breakdown from an engine and a rebuild that's due in your future. So yeah, that's the overlooked one that happens sometimes, and but it is the most important filter in that respect.
For sure. And not, I mean, even if you want to get your money back on the secondary market with that equipment, you don't want to send it over to that, you know, and this time next year with that kind of an issue. It's, I mean, the balance of the, you know, the long term and the short term is just astounding. And I know we've talked before about how efficiency within a filter, once you put it in, grows, right? Because it catches more contaminants, and then it becomes more efficient in filtering those out, but then it hits a peak and then it starts to degrade. So watching out for that's important, right?
Exactly. It's the old curve that just kind of creeps along, and all of a sudden it turns straight up like this. So it's when you catch that straight up part, yeah, it's getting more efficient, but at the same time, you're going to hit the wall quickly. So again, that if you think about an air filter, there's indicators, there's all kinds of new technology that have come on board. We've got that new HDA 100 that came out. That's the Senzit. So there's all kinds of things that tell you what's going on with a air filter, just like it is with the oil and the fuel. So there's obviously, like we said, a lot more technology that's out there and a lot more help to make sure that you can, you know, squeeze out the 99th, you know, use of that air filter before it's time to change it. So it's a good time to be able to have all this stuff at your fingertips.
Yeah, for sure. It's all, and this has come up a lot. It's always important, right? But somehow today, maybe it just feels a little bit more important, given everything that's riding on it, right?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, we're all, you know, trying to do the best we can with what we've got, and it's, you know, use every tool that you have available to you.
And lean on your partners, right? If they're taking my calls, they'll take your calls, fleet customers.
Yeah, occasionally, yes, we will take your call. Just Jason, that's all.
All right, hey, well, thank you for taking the time. Always a pleasure catching up. I know some of the stuff we'll mention, like the efficiency, the fuel, or the filter efficiency. I'll put a link down below in the story for that too, so people can catch up on there. And I'm sure I will give you a call soon.
Yeah, great, Jason. Hey, it's wonderful to catch up with you. I'm glad we got a chance to chat for a few minutes just about what things that can kind of help your subscribers. And hey, just stay safe, wash your hands.
Yeah, you too. Talk to you soon.
See you, Jason.